No, wait.
Oh, I've seen some more work I can put on. Yeah. Yeah.
Get you arrested on
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all ready and interested because we've got a good program tonight. In case you guys don't know me, I'm David Shook, KC4X. And I'm wondering who you guys are. Let's start here with Steve Patterson.
I'm Steve, WA3, RTC.
Michael, K4OLD.
And this is Marty. Marty just passed his exam.
Ron, W4UDB.
Henry, W4HHS.
Harlan, W1HRC.
K4GW, Jerry.
Kent, K4HKE.
Jim, KG4SJ.
Henry, W2DZO.
Harold, K4HER. Don, WS4AC.
Mason, KM4, NFQ.
Mason KM4SF.
Now Kathy.
Kathy KM4OCS.
Chris, KW4DK.
Bill, WD4OTY.
W4LKN.
Sam, and I4TG.
And I'm Wyatt Earp's buddy, Doc Holliday. WB4QIZ.
I'm your Huckleberry.
I'm Rick, M4MBI.
David, W4OIL. John, K1PPE. Judson, KG40HQ.
Van, KC4WSK.
Alberto, KK4TUW.
Ron, KM4WPN.
David, N5WNB.
Daryl, N5WK.
Jim, KM4HUZ.
Okay, I'm Chuck, KM4IBY.
John Hiram, WB4DCO.
Brent, KN4ACN.
Jason, KX4CS. Andre, KM4ECE.
Outstanding. Very good. We miss anybody? Jim.
I'm Jim, W4U.
I'm Brian, N4UEZ.
Okay, good deal, fellas. All right. Well, without further ado, before we get the program underway, we've got a couple different things to take care of. And our good friend Harold has a presentation to make. Take it away, Harold.
Thank you.
Every now and then, somebody comes along that really promotes the hobby of amateur radio, and we'd like to recognize one of the people that has done that for us. Mason, would you come up here?
No, come around.
Come around.
Get over there, man.
Make that little feet walk. Get on camera, right there.
Okay. Let me get out of the blinding light. But anyway, Mason did a de-expedition by himself to Iceland, and we'd like to present this to him as a memento of his trip.
Good job, Mason. Okay, let's see, we have a treasurer's report.
Let's see, current balance right now is $4,597.78. We've got the insurance bill for about $300 due, and then a couple of other little things that are due, but nothing outstanding major just right now.
Very good. You've got some tags there.
Yep, got W83ABP, KM4UPM, N3MDC, NC4RT, or WN4OFT. If you guys are here, got name tags over here for you. And if anybody else needs one, just let me know after the meeting. I'll get it made for you and bring it to the next meeting.
Okay, very good. We'll let you guys know that our W4NC site has been switched over to the new server system. And at the moment, everything's working good. And please take the opportunity to go out there, have a look at it, and determine if you see something that's not right. W4NC info at W4NC. I believe Henry gets those.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Who gets them?
I'm afraid I do right now. But
Well, Henry's got an email address. He'll give it to you if you want. I will. Anyway, yeah, if you see anything that needs attention, or maybe something that you'd like to have added to the site, just let them know. I think we can work that out. Also, want to put in a word for our business meeting next Monday night. We start gathering about 6:30 at Hams at Thruway Lower Mall, and hopefully this month we'll get to meet in the room. If not, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But several things we're going to talk about, and one of those things we're going to go ahead and hear something from Daryl regarding Field Day. Field Day coming up pretty quick. So Daryl, why don't you come up and take it away here for a few minutes and talk to us about your plans for Field Day.
Well, Field Day, the fourth weekend in June this year, as always, and which will be June 24th and 25th. And we are going to operate as last year in the 9 Alpha class. Now, to accomplish that, we're going to have a lot of help putting up antennas. And Gene has got a lot going on and will not be able to participate this year. So to put up that many antennas, we are going to need a lot of help. And I'll pass a sheet around here, well, 2 actually here shortly, and one for antenna setup, another for people who like to operate. As far as setting up antennas, if you would like to take charge of a particular antenna, putting it up, not that I mean that you would put it up by yourself, but you're still going to need a lot of help, but just to be in charge that it gets up and gets upright. You might want to note that on this sign-up sheet. We'll meet out there Friday to put up what support ropes we need to do, and then of course Saturday morning we'll put up the actual antennas, and hopefully we can get everything done in time by 2 o'clock when we should start to transmit. Second sheet, of course, will be for people who would like to operate, your name, time of day. We want to make sure we've got enough operators, especially during the nighttime hours. And I've noticed the last couple years, seems like when we get to Sunday morning to 2 o'clock, We get a little bit light on operators also, so if we're lucky, we'll have enough operators that we can have a little more consistency as far as working those stations, those particular radios, those bands. And also on the sign-up sheet for operators, if there's a particular mode because that you might want to work. This year we're going to operate 80 CW, which we did not do last year. We left a lot of points on the table not doing that. So we will need additional people that can handle CW. One other thing, I am looking for someone that would like to operate the GOTA station this year. Jeff will be on vacation, will not be able to do that. So anyone that would have interest in that, please let me know. Let's see. Is there anything else at this time? I'd say that about does it for right now.
Hey, Daryl, you
Yeah.
talk about changing class, just all the boys from beat and stuff.
Well, we're going to try for non-alpha again, but I think we're really not going to know what class we're going to operate in until 2 o'clock on Saturday, because it's all going to depend on how much help we get with how much help we get with the antennas, and I will say this. I mean, I was looking at the scores from last year, and you know, in reality, last year we really, because there was nothing on 10, so we were kind of operating as a 7 alpha really last year, and which if we had been in that class, we'd have won by about 1,500, 2,000 points. But you know, it'll be interesting. I mean, the conditions are getting worse. I'm sure other clubs are trying to, you know, change their tactics because of the conditions are getting worse. So, you know, to move to another class, would it help? You know, I guess it would just be rolling the dice. It might help, it may not. But yeah, I think that would. Oh, and one other thing, I'm looking for someone that would like to take charge of taking the bulletins. Jim did that last year, and so those are the two activities that we're in need of as far as once we start transmitting. So I'll start passing these 2 sheets around. So if you can commit to any of this today, it would be a great help, because the sooner we have some idea of what we're working with, the better off we'll be. And I guess that's it for now.
Now,
Yes, sir.
Councilman Bessie will be there. He's
Yeah,
confirmed.
I got your email.
And, I did get a bid on the food, so we can barbecue turnkey pretty much, so we can mess with that now. Mess with the board. We'll have food.
Okay. Good enough. That's it for me.
Okay, very good, Daryl. Pass them around and sign up. Okay. Any questions for Daryl? All right, without further ado, you are up. Me was up. There. Oh, Henry. That's it. I'll go get that bucket of pillows.
Yeah, get the box. Well, good evening, everybody. Again, I'm Harlan. I'm W1HRC. I am the ARRL's emergency coordinator for Forsyth County for this organization. What we're going to talk about tonight is a little bit about what is amateur radio emergency services. A lot of you have been in it for years. Good brief overview, but we've got some changes that have started, at least for this organization, that we want to walk through. So what is it? It's us. We're just a group of amateur radio operators that are licensed by the Federal Communications Commission, having passed our test, and we use our expertise in communications for emergency services. we support various agencies. And we'll talk about those agencies in a little bit. ARRL is considered by not only the federal government, but by the state of North Carolina to be in the public interest, convenience, and necessary for all RF spectrums. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means after this, when we get there. ARRL is actually the public service side of the ARRL. It's the element that they use for emergency communications. Our authorization comes under 14 CFR Part 97, as we all know, and in fact, 97.1, the very first element in that section says providing emergency communications. Before anything else, the FCC put that first. Why? Because we are, as an entity throughout the United States, a very vital part of the emergency communications system for the United States in time of emergency. Here's a little bit of history of how this worked out. 1914, people just did it. Something would happen in their community, they volunteered. I've got a radio, I can talk here. It happened when it happened. In 1935 was the first organization, they called it, what? The Amateur Radio Emergency Corps. In 1980, it actually was where it became today, the Amateur Radio Emergency Services. We support primarily the American Red Cross. We also support federal, state, and local entities. Here in Forsyth County, we support the Red Cross, whose building we're in. But we also support Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Emergency Management. We are one of the largest and primary ARRL groups in the triad. And so we also support a couple other counties if needed. If they call us, we will go there. Davidson, Davie, Yakima are the ones that we will move to if we need to, if they ask for support. One of the newest things that's come in the last multiple years has been the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA. We're very integral with them. They're looking for more and more radio interfaces with amateur radio, and that is occurring as we speak. Some of the things they've done, I'll give you an idea. For example, in California, California is very big with the 800 trunk system for their public service radios. They can essentially have a municipality in one end of the state get on the radio and talk to a municipality on the other end of the state on their 800 trunk system. Well, they wanted amateur radio to be part of that as well. So all of their counties that have ARRL programs, their emergency coordinators have been issued by the state an 800 megahertz radio. So they can interface directly with that system. And that has enhanced their capabilities. Other states are starting to look at that, including North Carolina. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years. The field organization starts at the top. Has everybody heard of the National Traffic System? Are you aware of that? Okay, there's a net happens every night at 9:30, if I'm not mistaken. And there's traffic that's passed. There's also nets on HF. That one happens to be on 2 meters. You are encouraged to participate in those. You don't necessarily have to go through the training. You can check in on their nets and listen. I do it frequently, and every once in a while, even though I haven't gone through the NTS training yet, they'll hand me a message to pass here in Forsyth County, since I'm right here in the county. And it works out good. Administration and training, it's all administered from the ARRL. We do have a section coordinator. Essentially, section coordinators are assigned to each state. And ours, it is Tom Brown, N4 TAB. He's over in the Raleigh area. Forsyth County is in District 9. Dow Williams, W4YQY, is our district emergency coordinator. The district is basically several counties. For us, it's for 9, it's Forsyth, Surrey, Yadkin, Stokes. No, it's all up north and just a hair west of us. There's about 4 or 5 counties involved. And then we have, each county has an emergency coordinator where they have the program. Not every county in the state of North Carolina has an active ARRS program. That's why we were picking up, or will pick up, the slack as necessary for joining counties. And that is a community service for us to do to them. Plus, when they need us, if we respond appropriately and we show our value to some of these counties, it will help the folks in those counties that want to start an ARRS and work with their county to be able to do it. A couple of these counties, we have some political issues, if you will, that are preventing ARRS operations or being started in that county. There's some resistance from the county, not from the answers. However, if the state says we need to go, we'll go. We have assistant emergency coordinators. We actually have 2 right now. Dale, WB9SZL, he is our technical assistant emergency coordinator. And we have Jim Mansfield, the D4NOT, who used to be the EC, he's now an assistant. I can always use another 1 or 2. We also have net control operators. Mason's one, I run a net. Fred, who's not here, runs a net. Jim runs a net. And what we want to do, and this is getting a little ahead of myself here, as we move forward as an ARRS entity and as part of the training, what I'd like to try to start sometime after field day, we want to get through field day, is asking folks individually to be able to look over and say, hey, Bob, here's the script for the net. Run the net one night, not on a routine basis. Just want you to run it one night. Get the feel for it. Get the idea of what it is to be a net operator, to be the net control station. We want everybody to get through that training and that experience so that when the event occurs that requires us to set these up, we don't have to look at Mason and go, Mason, you're it for the duration. I can say, okay, Mason, you got this 4 hours. Bob, you got this 4 hours. Jim, you got this 4 hours. And we can split it up. That way, not one person is having to deal with it the entire time. Okay, and then of course the ARRS members are you. What's the requirement to be a member? Well, a lot of people think that because it's part of the ARRL's public service, you've got to be an ARRL member. That is not correct. You do not have to be a member of ARRL to be part of ARRS. You have to be a member of ARRL to be, as part of the management staff of ARRS, to be the EC. You have to be a member. And you have to have gone through some of their online training. It's about a 6-week course, believe it or not, you got to walk through. And it's pretty simple, straightforward. If you want to take it, I encourage you to take it. All right, fees and obligations. That's always a big holdup for people. Well, first off, there's no minimum service obligation. You volunteer as you can. If you can make it, you can make it. If you can't, you can't. That's fine. We just ask that you participate when you can, participate in the nets when you can, participate in the training when you can, and be there when you can. How much is it going to cost you? Not a nickel. It's going to cost you your time, your equipment that you volunteer, and that's it. So we're not going to ask you to put money out of your pocket for dues or fees or anything like that. And it's open to every operator. That is another thing that some people have a misconception of. They think that you have to be able to operate on HF to be part of ARRS. No, you do not. Technicians, generals, extras. If you hold an amateur license, you're eligible. And I encourage you to participate. Because any level, you're going to be there. Because if I need HF operators, I've got Mason. Okay, I got Mr. HF here. I don't have to worry. But 90% of our operations, actually probably 99% of what we're going to do is going to be on 2 meters and 70 centimeters. That's going to be about 90% of our operations are now. So, can technicians operate on those two vans? Absolutely. Open to everybody. All you got to do is fill out the form. It's on the back of the club newsletter. I've got some here. If you haven't filled one out recently, please fill it out, give it to me. I'll get you in the system, and you'll be part of the team. What we ask you to do to maintain currency is update it biannually, or more frequently if you change contact information or your capabilities. Okay? For example, one member has primarily been on 2 and 70 centimeters, but recently notified me that they've now got an HF capability. I need to know that because that helps. Should I have to turn to that person, now I know I've got one more HF capable operator, you know, that can operate from their house, possibly mobile. Let me know what your capabilities are. Training requirements. To be part of ARRL as a normal member, just somebody I can send out in the field, I can send here to Red Cross, I can send to a shelter, I can send out when we do things for Bike MS. But I just send somewhere other than a command post or an EOC, Emergency Operations Center. It could be anybody, and we'll give you the local training like we're doing tonight. But if you want to do what's called North Carolina Section Operations or be EOC qualified, meaning I can put you downtown Winston in the new AOC as soon as it gets completed, you would be able to operate from there. You have to have completed the following NIMS, that's the National Incident Management System courses, what they call Incident Command System 100, 200, 700, and 800. Online courses, they're 3 hours each. They're through the FEMA Extended Learning Institute. You can take them online. I am working on setting up in-house classes after we get through field day. We do have 2 qualified instructors here in the county who are willing to do it. All I need to know when we go to set these up is I've got a minimum of 6 people. And they will run probably 2 in a day. We'll run 1 week, 1 day. We'll go another month or 2 and run the next 2. That'll probably be the easiest. The best way if you take these online is I encourage you to do 700, then 800, then go to 1 and 200. It'll make more sense to you that way. If you jump in on 100, you're going to be confused. And by the time you get to 200, you're going to be lost. 700 and 800 will give you a basis to understand a little bit more about 1 and 200. Okay. If you are NC qualified, if you have those 4 courses and you get registered on NC OXCOM, which we will help you do once you have those 4 courses. In fact, I normally do that for you. If you want that, I can make that happen. Then you will be part of a database that North Carolina maintains. And should we have a long-term or major disaster, you can be requested to deploy on behalf of North Carolina State, anywhere in the state, not just Forsyth County. There's also additional courses that once you get into that system you can take that they could actually pull you and ask you. They can contact you and say, we've got this disaster going on the East Coast. We need additional radio operators. And if you've gone through some of this additional training that they offer, and they just did one of the courses, it's a 5-day course. But then they can take you and put you into a county dispatch center or into that forward EOC, and you can operate not only the amateur section, you'd be able to operate their radios. They use you as a radio operator for them. You know, and they use that and they want that because what are we? We're communicators. They know we know how to talk on the radio. They know we know how to get messages across. So they're going to use us to the greatest extent they can. North Carolina is really pushing this now. The complexity of our operations, they vary. And it depends on where you are. It can get real complex. Okay? Little less. A little bit less complex. As simple as it gets. Okay? It depends on what the operation is. Not every operation we do is going to require a mobile unit fully capable of communications that we can go set out in the field somewhere. Or a trailer stuffed with radios. Okay, or even like that rig on the back of the pickup, which was pretty impressive if you really look at the picture closely. It's impressive to see the back of that thing. It's just, that little box in the back of that pickup has like 7 radios in it. It's just incredible to look at. This is what we normally look at for the Tour de Tanglewood. It's simple. We don't have to get complicated. It's what works. What is our need at that point in time? The nice thing about ARRL is it operates just like the incident command system. It's scalable. We go as big as we need and as complex as we need, or as simple as we need. We can start big and scale down, or we can start small and scale up. Emergency operations. This is where we're going to really spend some time. Short-term disasters. They can be anything. Whoop. Let me back this up somehow. How do I back this?
A backspace.
There. There. Okay. I got a very sensitive mouse here. All I got to do is think about touching it and it moves. All right, short terms. Those are going to be, we might have a winter storm, drops a bunch of snow on the ground, knocks out power to half the county. People got to be evacuated for 24 hours, get into shelters, or 48. Something short term. Nothing big. Might be that we have tornadoes going through the area in the spring and summer. Again, people have to be evacuated. We're opening shelters. We're operating a couple of days. Nothing huge. We can put you as an ARRL member at the Red Cross. We can put you at the shelter. If you are NIMS qualified, we put you downtown in emergency management in the EOC. The picture you see there is not our new EOC. I wish it was. That's actually the new EOC in my hometown up north, up in Virginia. They just completed that about 6 months ago, somewhere in that range. And the amateur radio section is right here in the corner. This is the comm section here. And amateur radio is right here. All their antenna runs are right to that point. They just walk in, plug in, and they're up and operating. We will have a very similar setup downtown. All we'll have to do is bring our radios, our power supplies, our jumper cables to be able to plug in between the radio and the antenna point, and we're good to go.
Where downtown?
It'll be at the Sheriff's Department. It is currently at the Winston-Salem Police Department complex. It's changing over to the Sheriff's Department now. They're in the final process of getting all the cabling run and everything set up there.
It's a closet right now. It's a closet right now.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be. It's a huge room that we're going into. The nice thing is where it currently is, it takes 24 hours to set up the EOC. From the point they say we need the EOC, it's 24 hours till it gets established. The new one, when they say we need the EOC activated, it's literally a staff walks in there, they rearrange the tabling, you walk in with your equipment, and you set it up. It's that quick. It's just a rearranging of the room. Everything's in the floor. For us, we're going to be stuck probably in a corner. It's the corner I'm thinking they were talking about. There'll be a column right here. We'll be right next to the column. We'll actually have a locked box that will have SQ239s at the bottom of it. That all we do is just plug into our antennas. Our power's there, internet capability is there. We just bring in what we need, set it up, and we're up and operating within minutes of arriving. That's what they want us to do. So they're putting the money into that. We have the antennas, I think Harold and I are going to get together one day and tune those things, right? Try to get them put together and tuned so they're ready to go up. Don't want to do it too quick before they're ready to, before the antennas are. They got pushed behind on their stuff. One thing, they bid their contract, had it awarded, and then somebody advised them that certain parts of these cables, not ours, but theirs, had to be put into actual conduit within the chases, and they had to go back and rebid, so that's why it's been pushed back. Otherwise, it would have been done by now. So it was their issue, not ours. All right. Long-term disasters. 4 days to a month or more. And there have been those throughout the country. Have we ever had that here in Forsyth County? Not to anybody's knowledge that I've talked with. Did the western or eastern end of the state have that recently?
Yes.
Yes, they did. Hurricane Matthew. Areas out there stayed in operation for greater than 30 days. And it took a lot of operators, takes a lot of time. Again, if your NIM's qualified, and I encourage you to do that, that opens up more areas we can use you, because they will not let you in the EOC if we don't have, and they have a list, believe me, they maintain a list of who's qualified. And I can't put anybody in there that's not. If you're Oxcom qualified, again, you can be called state, federal, or any location in the state to provide communications or other duties dealing with communications. In addition, there's hands that respond with other organizations such as Baptist Men's, LDSM, Saturn, etc. you can become involved in. What I try to put out here and what I want everybody to think about is what can or would be your commitment to public service, to emergency communications and an emergency disaster for the county, for this area. The reason I ask that is because here's what we're getting into. Forsyth County is planning for what they call their worst case scenario. Anybody want to guess what that might be?
Train derailment?
Train derailment? Terrorists?
Earthquake.
Earthquake? Nuclear?
fire.
EMP? EMP?
Tank
Okay.
fire.
You're close.
Fred.
Major winter storm with significant ice accumulation. For us in this area, that is their worst case scenario. Now, it gets better. This storm results in 100% of the county being without power and water. Because remember, if the power's out, pumps for water require power. So if the power's out, pumps ain't working, nobody's got water. 100% of the telecommunications are down, both landline and cellular. Now you've got no 911 system. Significant road closures because of downed trees, power lines, telephone lines, the power poles, etc. By the way, folks, I've lived through this, actually. In reality, I've gone through this. And the situation exists for an extended period of time greater than 30 days. And again, the event I went through was exactly like this. This is down in Mississippi. So what's that mean for us as amateurs? Where do you think we're going to fall in this block? What's it mean? It means we got to up our game, guys. Our mission's changed. It's increased. Because we are going to end up being in this situation. We will be the 911 system. We will end up being that. And I'll walk you through how that works. Like I said, they're anticipating the extensive use of us in this type of situation. We have approximately, the last time I did a search in the FCC website, of licensed amateurs for Forsyth County, a little over 600, 660, I think is the number I saw. Of course, we don't have us all here, right? Wish we did, you know, it'd be great. We'd be out of room, wouldn't we? But here's where we become the 911. We live in neighborhoods. So hence, what they do through the emergency broadcast system on AM and FM radios, and they get the word out as best they can of where we are to seek out the nearest amateur, and they'll start putting out addresses. They'll put out, hopefully have you, that lets your neighbors in your neighborhood know. My neighbors know. Every one of them do, and my 2 subdivisions around me, actually 3, they all know that I'm an amateur radio operator, and that in this type of an event, trudge to the house, and we will make sure that you get communicated with emergency services. You become that neighborhood 911. You become a very vital part of the community's safety in this event. Local community communications points. I'm going to use Louisville as an example. We're working with the town of Louisville right now, and we'll soon be working with Clemens to see if they're willing to do it. But Louisville they were probably going to be shortly putting up a 2-meter antenna for us, actually a 2 70-centimeter antenna, on their town hall. Because that's where their mini EOC will be for the town. So we become a communications point for the town to communicate with the EOC and to communicate with the fire department and to be able to get all that stuff that they need done. So we become very vital there. Regional communications, that's where our HF units come in. The 800 system here in the county is great. There's one thing about the 800 system that makes it vulnerable, just like the cellular system. Anybody know what that is?
It runs over the internet.
Most of it runs on the internet, but it all runs through one thing. It's called a switching station. If that switching station goes down, that 800 system goes down. And so if that's down, they cannot use the state's Viper system. All it takes is one switch to fail, and it takes out a significant portion of the system.
You're talking about 2 separate systems. The
They
state
are,
Viper system is different than the county's.
but they do interface.
Yeah, but they're independent of one another.
Yes. But they can switch over. They have that ability to make that happen. They are independent systems. But if they cannot do the regional communications, who are they going to turn to? Who can hit Raleigh from here? All of us. Whether it's on 80 meters, 40 meters, DMR, okay? We can all pretty much hit Raleigh in some way. So we become the regional communicators. And of course, in the EOC operations, they have our personnel there. So think about this event that we're talking about. 100% power, water, roads, telecommunications out in the county for up to 30 days. Some of us won't be able to get to the EOC, but can we operate from home? Who has emergency power capabilities? Are they generator, battery, handhelds?
Battery,
All the above.
All the above? Vehicle?
Solar.
Solar? Okay. So we need to think about, and when I say we, that's all of us. You know, where do we fit into this? What can we bring to that table in that event? These are the questions that I'm putting out to you individually, so you can think about that, because it's your decision. You're the ones that can only make that decision for yourself. I can't. What I'd like to know, though, and I do know for the most part some of the capabilities that you have, is where you think you would fall there. Would you be the neighborhood 911 in the event, or would you be able to make it to an EOC? You know, if you're driving, and I hate to pick on Steve wherever he's at, you know, he's got the Prius. He's probably not going to make it through the snow and over the down trees and everything else with the Prius.
Better than your 4-wheel drive.
Huh?
Better than your 4-wheel drive.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Depends on the depth of battery mode.
The thing is, my 4-wheel drive will go through yards. I can go around where I need to go. Anyway, What could you do? What equipment do you have that you could actually put out in the field if necessary, or take to your local town and set up at a fire department, or set up at at the town hall or the rec center? Things of this nature that might become the community communication point. What I'd like to do over a period of time, and the county is in a roundabout way asked for this, is to be able to give them an idea of where we fall with this, how we'd be able to function in this. So I kind of need feedback from you folks in near, sometime here in the future, as I can develop this plan for us. It'll be a written plan, but it won't be a dyed in the wool, concrete plan, because any plan for emergency services is flexible. Because as soon as the emergency happens, your plan does what? It goes out the window. Okay? You're winging it from there. This is what we'd like to do in a real life, perfect scenario, but Mother Nature's never perfect, and neither is anybody else. So we've got a plan for this, and at least have an idea that, yeah, I've got a half a dozen people I can throw into the mix to the EOC that have the capabilities to get downtown when this happens. I've got another 8 or 10 that I could use as community communication points in Clemens, Kernersville, Louisville, Tobaccoville, wherever, okay, throughout the county. And then I've got, of course, the regional communicators. Yes, we'll have HF capability out of the EOC, but it might take, while we might miss Raleigh, we might overshoot him, we may have to send that over to Harold in his house and let him retransmit it. So we have to know what these capabilities and who's where, kind of what this plan would be in this event, worst case scenario event. So I'd like you to think about that, because we need to be prepared, because they're going to call on us when it happens. I will tell you that this scenario will be drilled. And it won't be long after that EOC is completed that they're going to run the drill. It'll probably be, hopefully, on a weekend. Normally when they do large-scale drills, they run them on a weekend. I will encourage them not to interfere with field day or anything like that. As I get to know what the dates are, but they will drill this, and that is going to be a real-time drill. Meaning we will pick up, we'll go down, we'll set up in the EOC, we'll communicate from the EOC, and we'll real-time run that thing for several hours. We want to practice this stuff. Extreme situations that also might occur, and some of these are very real possibilities for us. Epidemic, pandemic, terrorist attack. The North Korea, if he ever gets a missile, going to make it to Winston-Salem. In these right now, the thought process, and this is primarily one of the American Red Cross hypotheticals that we would be supporting them in, is in these issues, about 1/3 to 2/3 of the population is affected. What that means for us is we would lose, out of the 660 hams that are licensed in Forsyth County, we'd lose between 198 and 435 of them. Which means we'd be down to possibly as little as 230 people or less. So think about it. All of this is all we've got active in Aries. We take 2/3 of us out of the room. What do we got? A dozen of us?
You still got enough to make it happen.
We'd still make it happen. Not as effectively and not as happily as we would like, because if we're operating this, and remind you that these pandemics, these are things that will be shelter-in-place operations that may last 30 days or more. So think about it. There's a dozen of us, and we got to put a couple people down at EOC, and you start working 12-hour shifts on communications, and you're doing that 15, 20 days, you're pretty wore out after about 5. Trust me.
And hope you like military meals.
Bill's rejected by now. Okay. Anyway, the mission in those events is going to be what we normally would do for the Red Cross. Welfare, morale, nets. We're going to be the ones sending the traffic out of the area saying, your loved one's okay. Or getting that message back in. Okay? Providing those neighborhood communications points. Because if they quarantine Kernersville, because that's where it seems to be, and they put that quarantine around the entire town, and trust me, they will. They'll come out with big green vehicles and a lot of guys in ACUs that have look like this pattern right here with M16 rifles, and they will completely cordon off Kernersville. Well, if you happen to be in Kernersville, you will be the communications point out of there. We will be using you for that. The American Red Cross does. So I want you to relax. It's not the end of the world. The neat thing is, we all have skills. Okay? Whether you're a technician, whether you're an expert, we all have the ability to communicate. What's your name again?
Marty.
Marty. Congratulations, Bob. Which one did you pick today? Technician. Awesome. You can be used. You get your call sign in a couple of days. You'll have it by Wednesday or Thursday, maybe. Right? Friday, we get the disaster. I'm going to call Marty. Marty's got radio. He's ready to rock. He's got a license. Okay? I can use him. Yes, sir.
What if you have Skywarn training?
Have what?
Skywarn.
Skywarn? We'll walk through Skywarn in a minute. Actually, I'll just take it right now. Skywarn is a totally separate operation. Skywarn and Aries, while they coexist, one's not over the other. Skywarn occurs, and that's strictly weather spotting. You can do that from your automobile. You can do that from your house. You can do that on your own. You do not have to check into any net, although there is a Skywarn net that runs on Tuesday nights. And it will activate when there is severe weather. If you can hit that repeater, join in, give your weather reports. Otherwise, if you're qualified for Skywarn, you've got a separate phone number. Make that phone call, give the National Weather Service your report. Okay. How many people in here are CERT qualified? We've gone through the CERT training. That's Citizens Emergency Response Team, if I remember correctly. Okay? Communications there. You know, one thing I don't have in my presentation, before we get into this part, I'm going to talk about it because there's a new change that's coming out. The FCC is putting out. They're changing the rules on FRS and GRMS, which, believe it or not, will affect the CERT operations. But as Aries, one of the things we may have to do is interface with these CERT teams, providing a communicator for their teams. If you're part of the CERT team, and you're an amateur operator, you can be that communications point. But we're going to have to possibly interface with people that have GRMS licenses or FRS radios, which is what they primarily use for the CERT teams. You know, those folks will not be in the EOC with any form of communications. So one of the things they're asking us, and the questions come out, do we have the ability to interface with that? Some of us do. I hold a GRMS license. I know a couple other folks that do. And we do have those capabilities to interface and act. And so we may actually end up being more than just an amateur bands, correct? Everybody see that? Think about that? We can become the primary controller, the primary net controller for an entire operation, multiple different segments that fall under the county. They're looking to us as the professional, what they call the professional amateurs, if you will. All right. Public service operations. That's another big part of Aries. We do this here primarily for MS. That's our big deal. Every year we do the bike MS. We also have one that's coming up here the end of this month on the 28th of May, which I need 4 more operators for. It's up in Pilot Mountain. We're going to talk about it in a second. but it's another charity bike ride. If there's any other large-scale public service events that go on that they want us to participate in, the organization comes to us, it's good practice. Why do we want to do these types of operations?
To be practice.
Hmm?
To get practice.
To practice, but why else? What's another one of our requirements under Part 97?
Give back to the community.
It's, well, goodwill, right? We put forward goodwill. By doing these events, we're showing that amateur radio is a vital part of the community. That helps us when we look at our local folks, or when you look at your HOA like I did with mine and said, I'm putting up a 50-foot tower. I know your little HOA thing says no antennas outside, but it's going up because I'm doing public service for you. And guess what I got back? Put it up. Okay.
You got lucky.
I did. I also had the wedge. I'll tell you what the wedge was later. But it was a good one. No, our president of our HOA happens to be one of our local fire captains. And so I used a little influence there to make that happen. But anyway, we've got all that we can do. The more goodwill we put out as amateurs by doing these things, the more people see what we do and can do, the more they're going to be willing to accept our antenna farms in their communities. Pilot Mountain, 28th of May. Like I said, I need 4 more operators. I've already got 2 operators that are going to be in mobiles. They're going to be up on top of each mountain, one on Pilot Mountain, one on Sourtown Mountain. They're going to have not only the 2-meter capability, but they're going to have citizens band radio capability because they will be my interface points for about 3 or 4 motorbike riders that are out there on motorcycles with CD capability that are essentially marshaling the ride. And they will communicate back to those 2 who will communicate back to our command post on 2 meters. But I do need 4 more people to either ride in the mobile support vehicles or act on the rest stops. We have 3 rest stops and the rest are all mobile. They may add another rest stop, I'll know Wednesday for sure. So if you haven't signed up with me, please, if you can do it, it's on a Sunday. I know that is Memorial Weekend. It's a very bad weekend to pick. Was not my choice. I promise you that. I'd have picked a different day. Anyway, 0700 hours is when we want to meet at the Artfield Center. We should be done. They anticipate about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where we can roll from there. And if you're out at a rest stop in your own vehicle acting as a rest stop, once we close that rest stop down and we don't need you, you can rock. You can just roll on home. If you're in a mobile support vehicle, you just have to wait till you get back. Once that vehicle's back and we're done for the day, you can rock out of there.
Are they going to provide a meal like they used to?
I will find out Wednesday evening. There's a lot of details on this one that they have not passed on to me yet, even though we've been asking the questions. I'm really not 100% sure. I think they finally did it nailed down this week. They're still
In the process, yeah.
Yeah. It's not as well organized as Bike MS is. Oh, back up here. There we go. All right. Bike MS. This is our tour to Tanglewood. We're going to spend a lot of time tonight. Well, I say a lot of time, about 10 minutes on this. 1617. The mission has changed from what it has traditionally been. This year, not only are we providing communication support, but in the field we are going to provide the emergency coordination. We'll walk through what that means. In our communication support, we're going to do the support vehicles. They're asking this year, in the past they have gone out and gotten John Doe to volunteer his vehicle to be the support vehicle. And then we've added an amateur radio operator to that vehicle. What we're trying to do this year is encourage those of you that want to participate, use your own vehicle that has a radio installed. We'll give you the bike rack to put on your vehicle, and we will assign you a volunteer to act as your navigator and to help you there. That way, you've got a high-powered mobile, hopefully. We avoid some of the communications issues we have down by the lake when we're over on the Davie County side of the house. We avoid some of that where we can't get into the repeater from down there. With a handheld and a mag mount, just won't work. Rest stop communications and the command post. We have traditionally had our command post set up over at the campground, is where we put our trailer and communications. We're still in discussions. Right now, the indication is that they want to move that a little closer to where the main event is, to where their staff is. And the idea being that that staff person that can make the decisions. What's happened in the past is we've had our trailer, John's trailer, we use. John's very nice to let us use that as our comm center. They will put either a staff member or a volunteer over there with a cell phone. And what was happening is we get somebody in the field that would call into that control and say, we've got this issue here. Well, they make a note of it. That person representing MS makes a phone call to the staff member who can make the decision. And then that person calls whoever in the field and tells them what the decision is. And we still hold it, and that control is an open issue. We don't get that closure. We don't know what's going on. And then later in the day, we get asked about it. And we don't have a clue. That's changing. Cellular phones this year will only be used when we have to deal with protected personal information. And what that is that's somebody's name. That's their address. That's their phone number. Not necessarily phone number, at least their name. You know, we've got something, you know, Dale gets hurt out there. We're not going to say, you know, Dale's hurt over the radio. If we need his name, it's going to be passed by cell phone. Normally what we'll do is we'll just pass the bike rider's number. Rider number 123 is injured here.
And every upper management has a list of all the names.
Net control will have that list. We will know immediately. We go down, 123, yes, John Doe. Here's his emergency contact information. Here's all the stuff we need. The second thing we're going to have is we're going to encourage every ham that has a smartphone. If you have an Android, please put APRS Android on it. Because we're going to set up at the command center to monitor that. So we will know where every vehicle is that has an amateur operator in it that has that capability. We'll know immediately where you are. So when we get that report that we've had this incident out here, and it may come from a bike rider, it might come from one of our marshals by cell phone back to the command post. We're going to dispatch an amateur radio operator in a support vehicle. The nearest one is going to be dispatched to that scene. When that amateur operator gets there, they're going to become the on-site leader. That means you're going to become the coordinator. You're going to coordinate all the volunteer and participant actions on that scene. You're going to collect the information. We'll walk through this. I've got it all written down. Okay? You'll be the on-site leader. You're going to take, and if you need to block off the road with your vehicle because you've got a bike rider laying on the road, you're going to block it off. If you have 3 or 4 bike riders standing there with a person, you're going to have one. You can ask, hey, you go stand here, you go stand here, you stop traffic and let them through while we get stuff done. Okay? You're going to manage that scene. We will have more training on this the closer to that event. Promise me, I will not put you out there unless you know what you're doing. Okay? Like I said, you're going to coordinate the volunteers and participants to assist in handling that information. You're in that situation. You're going to get it taken care of. You're going to have the MS incident report form. You will be the one responsible for collecting all the information. The name of the persons involved, the witnesses, their witness statements, all this information. You're responsible for getting that for MS. And you will be the person that the emergency response personnel, particularly the law enforcement, will come to on that scene. Prior to this operation here, what's going to happen is we're actually going to bring all of our SAG and all of our amateur operators together prior to September 15th, 16th, or 16th, 17th. We'll do it probably that Thursday night. We will also have law enforcement representatives from each of the 3 counties we operate in, along with EMS. We're going to walk through the emergency operations plan so everybody knows what's going on, and we're going to introduce to the law enforcement reps who you folks are. Because they're going to let their folks that are working these incidents and responding know to look, when they get on the scene, look for the amateur radio operator. They will have the information. Because a lot of times what will happen in these is especially if the person has to be transported to the hospital. In a lot of cases, the ambulance has left the scene before the deputy or state highway patrol arrives on the scene. So they know when they get there, they can just walk up to you and say, "You're the amateur radio operator?" You go, "Yes, sir. Here's the information." He will copy down everything you got because you've already got everything he needs. They'll get it from you. That's what we're trying to do. That's what MS has asked us to do. We said we can do it. I don't see a problem with any of that. Everybody here, I think, has got enough common sense to make it happen. I promise you the end is here.
Go,
Do what?
go.
All right, there's another aspect of emergency communications, and that is RACES, Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Services. That's actually codified under 47 CFR 97407. Basically what that says is that to be a RACES station, you have to be a licensed amateur, and you have to be registered with your local civil defense / emergency management agency. To be registered with the civil defense / emergency management agency, you have to have completed ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800. If you have completed those, and I have copies, then I automatically register you with Forsyth County. If you are in another county, I will notify that county as well. Plus the fact that once you have those 4, we will get you in the OXCOM system. That right there puts you with the state emergency management. Now you are listed and registered as a RACES station. Why is this important? Hopefully never in our lifetime. However, with the current situation in the world right now, and the things that are going on, it's always possible at some point in time that this will be enacted. President War Powers Act. When that happens, you actually have to go to another part of the federal regulations, and that is 47 CFR Part 214, that basically says at that point in time the federal government takes control of the entire radio spectrum. And unless you are in government operations, you will not transmit unless they opt out of certain areas, certain spectrums. But they will additionally, under that act, take control of the entire spectrum. They do that for what reason? Anybody got an idea?
Radio silence.
It's radio silence. Keeps the bad guys from knowing where we are, or zoning in on us, supposedly. It also prevents inadvertently passing information that will help them. Okay, if North Korea launches a missile that makes it to the United States, the last thing the United States wants North Korea to hear coming out from an amateur radio operator talking to somebody in Europe, yeah, that thing hit San Diego and took it out. Now, we've just told North Korea that they succeeded in their mission. They don't want that. They want all the silence they can get. So you need to be a RACES operator and able to operate, or in order to operate, once that gets put in place. I hope it never happens. Okay? If it does, if you're an ARRL member, you've got 4 NIMs, you're automatically in RACES. You register because we'll make sure it happens. The state will have it, the county will have it, hence the feds will have it. And you can operate as a government station within their certain restrictions. Trust me, there's restrictions in there what you can do. We can't get out there and start rag showing or passing that information, but we will be transmitting on amateur bands and possibly other bands and frequencies as the government tells us to, through shares operations, etc. They will put us wherever they want us, and we will be passing that government information. It may be by voice, it may be by digital, it can be in any number of modes. How many people here can do digital capabilities on HF? Okay. How many modes? A bunch. Yeah, all of them, right? All depends on the software you have. You know, there's some free software out there that's got a lot of good stuff on it. There's some high-priced software out there that's got maybe a little bit more, but most of it is the same. Anybody in here Mars operators? Okay. There's a lot of stuff there that goes on. All right. How many people can do digital on 2 meters or 7 centimeters at any time? Okay. Now, that can be something that may occur. All right. So anyway, you get registered, we'll take care of that. That's just something to be thinking about and realize that that is one of our potential areas that we can be looking at should the big event occur. Become an ARRS member if you haven't already done it. That's my email addresses. The ARRS address is FCAERARES at w1hrc@gmail.com or 46babywillies@gmail. I do have applications up here. If you haven't previously given me one, please do it. Don does put it in the back of the newsletter for the club, and it is available online from the ARRL website. You can download it. It's PDF fillable, and then you can email it to me. Or just email me and I'll send you one. Doesn't matter. However you want to do it. But I encourage you to register with us and become a member. That's the way I call it. Any questions? Yeah, there you go. Questions? Anybody got any questions? Anybody want to start the messenger? Okay. All right. It's all good. Thank you, guys. Ladies.
Well, we're not quite finished yet. We're going to move along pretty quickly. You have a report for us there.
2 things. The testing tonight, the VEs that are still here can stand up. That embarrassed you. If we didn't have them, we wouldn't have an amateur radio program and several hundred new phones over the past few years. So speaking of which, we had 4 of them. I know we have one here. I'm sorry, was it Mason? Marty. And let's see. I don't know if we have any other. Oh, right. We got our extra John. So let's see. Marty got his tech. John got his extra. And there were 2 more. I'm not sure if they're here. They got their tech and their general. So as you hear them on the air, please remember the first time you were on the air. You're welcome.
Congratulations.
And Another subject, repeaters. For those of you that are new in the club, we have a long-range repeater on Sartown Mountain. That's up and running okay, and it has a couple of nets on it, which I'd invite you to attend the Vagabond Net, 2:30 to 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Just chime in, they'd welcome you in. And the ARRL, excuse me, that Harlan chairs, or one of his members, on 8:30 Thursday, right? Thursday night. So a lot of activity on that machine. There's two other machines at Baptist Hospital. One's on 2 meters and one's on 440. And one of them still has some paging problems. I've been traveling a lot last month and even more this coming month. So hopefully we'll get some things done in June. There's also something called EchoLink, which is a voice over IP application. One server's back in the other room. It hits 146.64 machine. And the other one I have at home, it hits the Sartown Mountain machine. That basically means that using a smartphone, a PC, or a radio, you can chime in and talk to anybody in the world. And it sounds like regular FM, so it works well. I think that's about it now, unless there's any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. A couple of things I wanted to mention. A couple of weeks ago, we had our Renola House Community Day. Ray's not here to talk about that, so we'll mention it next week. But we had a really good turnout of hams there. We had CW operators.
We had 30 contacts.
30 contacts,
And
which
I think with the first one and the second one, a total of 90 contacts.
that was more than we had for the other events. So guys did a really good job. We got a lot of people that came over and talked to us. Steve talked to several, and Harold talked to quite a few, and somebody else was doing some talking. I can't remember.
John was there. Kippy was and,
Yeah, John was there. Yep.
And then Ray and you.
And Ray and Randy was there for a good little while.
And they 4 feet.
Yeah. So a lot of good participation. Didn't want to let the night go by without mentioning that. And also, very important, before we have another club meeting, we got an AmFest. AmFest coming up June the 3rd. It's going to be from 8 in the morning until 11, and we're going to cut it off at 11 sharp because we got to clean up everything and get out of there. Tim, we're still here, see you in the back. Okay, well, no matter, but we definitely want to remember not field day, but AmFest. And
What time do you want me out there to start taking tickets?
you know, John, you gonna come whenever you want to come, and that'll work. That'll work. If we're not taking tickets, we're talking to each other, and there's several guys. We don't really have a coordinator for this. We need a coordinator who can contact half a dozen or so people to help and do this, that, and the other, and we just haven't had anybody as yet. So our ears are open. Somebody step forward. We need that. Let's see. Anybody have any other announcements?
Dave,
Yes, sir.
on the 13th of this month and the 27th, there are 2 ham fests. There's one in Reidsville and one in Durham. Those are Saturday only, start up Saturday morning, finish by noontime. They're usually a pretty good little ham fest and give you a chance
Do
to
we have a
find some bargains.
location for those on the website? Jim, did you know that? We don't know where those are.
Well, Don puts them in the newsletter.
Don, where's the newsletter?
He's back here working on it, typing right now.
Read the ones at the Baptist Church.
Okay.
The Community Baptist Church.
Yeah, well, it'll be announced, like I said, in the newsletter, so you'll find it. And of course, ours will be at Summit School, same time, same channel. Any other questions? Any other business? Any other motions?
Adjourn.
Well, you're second.
Second.
All right, folks. Enjoy. Thank you.